Have you ever stopped to consider that the very things keeping your food fresh on the shelf might be the same things driving up rates of chronic disease?
Welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. Stay informed with quick, easy-to-listen summaries of our latest articles, perfect for when you're on the go. No reading required. Subscribe for free at mercola.com for the latest health insights.
Looking for trusted health wisdom you can hold in your hands? Discover the life-changing books of Dr. Joseph Mercola at joyhousepublishing.com. These titles bring decades of natural health research into practical steps for better energy, stronger immunity, and clearer thinking. Take charge of your health with guidance rooted in science and experience. Visit joyhousepublishing.com now and claim your bonuses while they are available. Hello and welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. I'm your host, here to help you unpack the dense, the complex, and sometimes, well, the surprising world of health information.
And I'm here to provide the analysis, connect the dots, and hopefully help us all understand not just the what, but the why behind it all.
Today, we're diving into a topic that, honestly, it feels a little bit like a detective story.
Yeah.
We're looking at the invisible ingredients in our food supply, specifically the link between preservatives and ultra-processed foods and the rising rates of things like cancer and diabetes. You know, I was walking down an aisle at a convenience store yesterday, and I picked up this package of snack cakes. And the expiration date was, and I'm not kidding, 2 years from now.
2 years. Wow.
2 years. And I just had this moment where I thought, what is in here that makes it immortal? Because, you know, real food dies, right? An apple rots, meat spoils.
But this thing, it was effectively a mummy wrapped in plastic.
Yeah.
And we love that convenience. We love that we can stock up and just forget about it. But we rarely ask about the cost of that convenience.
That is the perfect word for it. Cost. There's a biological cost. And the mission of this deep dive is really to audit that cost. We need to explore the connection between modern food preservation, especially in ultra-processed foods, and some very, very serious health outcomes.
Like cancer and diabetes.
Exactly. But what I love about this particular analysis is that it doesn't just present the problem. It kind of holds up a mirror by looking back at history.
Right.
It contrasts our modern chemical reliance with the wisdom of our ancestors.
I think that historical context is going to be the most eye-opening part for everyone listening, and we are definitely going to get there. But first, we have to tackle the heavy stuff right up front, the core connection.
Let's slow down and really parse that, because the language here, it matters a lot. Notice how specific it is. It's not saying food causes cancer.
No.
It's not even saying cooking causes cancer. It's targeting preservatives inside of ultra-processed food.
Okay, let's unpack ultra-processed. We hear that word all the time, but in this context, we're not talking about home cooking, are we? We're not talking about steaming some broccoli or slow cooking a roast?
No, absolutely not. It's a whole different ballgame. Ultra-processed foods are, well, they're industrial formulations.
Industrial formulations.
Right. These are substances that are derived from foods, but then they're chemically modified. We're talking about things created in a factory using, extrusion molding, additives.
So the stuff that comes in a box with a cartoon character on it?
That's a good way to put it. And these products often contain ingredients you would never, ever find in a home kitchen. Things like hydrolyzed proteins, hydrogenated fats, and importantly, industrial seed oils like soybean or corn oil, which are often used as cheap fillers.
Right. And the link being drawn here is to two of the biggest chronic conditions of our time, cancer and diabetes. So what we're seeing is a correlation between the synthetic agents used to keep these things shelf stable and the rising rates of these diseases.
And it is the rising rates part that's really the smoking gun.
Yeah.
If you look at the timeline of human health, conditions like type 2 diabetes and certain metabolic cancers have just skyrocketed in the last 50 to 70 years.
That's a blink of an eye in evolutionary terms.
It is. Our genes haven't changed in that time. So you have to look at the environment.
And the biggest change in our environment is what we put in our mouths 3 times a day.
Exactly. We've introduced a massive variable, synthetic chemistry. We're consuming compounds that our biology has never even seen before in human history. The research suggests this isn't a coincidence. The rise of this preservative-laden, ultra-processed diet tracks almost perfectly with the rise of these chronic diseases.
It makes sense when you think about it. If you feed a machine the wrong kind of fuel for 50 years, eventually the engine's going to start knocking.
That's a great analogy.
In this case, the engine is our metabolism, and that knock is diabetes or cancer.
It is. Diabetes is fundamentally a metabolic dysfunction. The engine isn't processing fuel correctly. And cancer is often described as a metabolic disease as well, where cellular communication just breaks down. So if we're flooding the system with these synthetic signals preservatives designed to literally stop biological processes, it stands to reason that our own biological processes might get confused.
So if the what is the preservatives in ultra-processed food, and the result is this link to cancer and diabetes, the question I naturally ask is, did it have to be this way? Was there a time when we preserved food without, potentially hurting ourselves?
And that is the perfect segue into the historical wisdom we mentioned. This is where we shift from the problem to the precedent. We have to go back to life before refrigeration.
Which, let's be honest, in the grand scheme of things, refrigeration is brand new. My grandmother used to tell stories about the icebox, but go back a few hundred years, and there was no cold storage.
Correct. And yet humans survived. We thrived. We built entire civilizations. And importantly, we didn't starve every winter. There are 4 specific methods that humans use to preserve food historically. I think it's really worth going through them because they represent a completely different philosophy of food.
Oh, I love this part. It feels like uncovering lost technology. What are the big 4?
The list is drying, fermenting, curing, and pickling.
Okay, let's walk through these. Drying sounds simple. You just take the water out.
It does sound simple, but think about the biology of it. Bacteria, mold, yeast. They all need moisture to thrive. They need a medium to swim in and reproduce. So by drying food, using the sun or the wind or low heat, our ancestors effectively paused the biological clock of that food.
They hit the pause button.
Exactly. They didn't kill the food with poison. They just changed its state to make it hostile to spoilage. You see this with dried meats or certain fruits. It concentrates the flavor and the nutrients, but it stops the rot.
Okay, and then there's fermenting. This one always blows my mind because it's basically letting food go bad, but in a good way.
Controlled spoilage is the technical term for it, but it's really more of a partnership. Fermenting is all about using beneficial bacteria to preserve the food. Instead of sterilizing the food to kill everything, which is the modern approach, you're inviting the good guys in.
The good guys being things like lactobacillus.
Precisely. You create an environment, usually by adding salt or specific starters, where beneficial bacteria can thrive. And these bacteria, they consume the sugars in the food and produce lactic acid. That acid creates a low pH environment where the bad guys, the pathogens that cause rot and illness, they just can't survive.
So it's like a turf war, and we're rigging the game for the good bacteria.
That is a fantastic way to put it. And here's the kicker. This process doesn't just preserve the food, it enhances it. Fermentation can actually increase the bioavailability of nutrients. It creates new compounds. It supports our gut microbiome. It's a biological preservation method that works with our own biology.
That is such a cool distinction. Modern preservatives feel like they're all about death, killing anything that might grow. Fermenting is about life, encouraging the right things to grow. Okay, what about curing?
Curing typically involves salt and sometimes smoke. And again, it's about drawing out moisture and creating an environment where pathogens can't take hold. It was absolutely essential for preserving meats for long winters.
And finally, pickling, which usually involves vinegar, right?
Yes, or a brine. It's all about using acid. Most bacteria that cause illness cannot survive in a highly acidic environment. So by submerging food in vinegar, or in a salty brine that becomes acidic through fermentation, you extend its life.
So we have drying, fermenting, curing, and pickling. And the source material makes a really important point about the purpose of these methods. They were used to extend food availability.
Right. And that purpose is key. It was about survival. It was about taking the harvest from the summer and making sure it was available in the dead of winter. It was a logistical necessity. But here's the critical distinction, and this is really the pivot point of the whole conversation. These methods achieve that goal without synthetic chemicals.
Without synthetic chemicals. That phrase just rings so loud when you compare it to the first part of our conversation about ultra-processed foods.
It creates this stark binary. On one side, you have the ancient wisdom methods that use the elements: sun, air, salt, time, and beneficial bacteria. On the other side, the modern solution: synthetic preservatives made in a lab, designed to keep ultra-processed ingredients stable for, well, unnatural lengths of time.
It really makes you think about the trade-off. We traded the time and the effort of fermenting and curing for the instant gratification of a packet that lasts for 3 years.
And the hidden cost of that trade might be our metabolic health. That's the core argument. We move from mechanical and biological preservation, which our bodies have evolved alongside for millennia, to chemical preservation, which is evolutionarily brand new. And the research suggests a direct link between this shift and the rising rates of cancer and diabetes. We changed the input and the biological output. Our health changed in response.
It's almost like we try to outsmart nature, and nature is pushing back.
I think that's a very accurate way to look at it. When you dry a piece of meat, it's still meat. When you ferment cabbage, it's transformed, but in a way our gut understands. But when you take an ultra-processed food loaded with refined grains, seed oils, and synthetic preservatives, you're creating something the body may not even recognize as food in the same way. It's closer to an industrial product.
This is a lot to digest, pun intended. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how humans eat and survive. I want to dig a little deeper into the shift from natural to synthetic, but first. Hi, friends. We're trying out a new podcast style for a limited time, and we truly love your feedback. If you're enjoying this format, please let us know in the comments. Okay, we are back. Before the break, we were drawing this line in the sand between the historical methods drying, fermenting, curing, pickling, and the modern synthetic chemicals found in ultra-processed foods.
And I want to pause on that word synthetic.
Yeah.
Because it's used very deliberately to contrast with the historical methods. Synthetic implies something constructed, something artificial. The implication is that these compounds don't exist in nature in the form or the concentration that we're consuming them in.
Right. You don't walk through a forest and find a bush sprouting sodium benzoate or potassium sorbate.
Exactly. These are lab creations. Yeah. And the category itself is the problem. We are introducing these foreign agents into our cellular environment. And the argument is that these synthetic chemicals are linked to the rising cancer and diabetes rates. It's asking us to really reflect on that correlation. As our diet became more synthetic, our health became more fragile.
It's a paradox, isn't it? We have more food than ever. It lasts longer than ever. We are technically safer from starvation than our ancestors were, but we are so much sicker in terms of chronic disease.
That is the deep dive realization right there. We solved the problem of food availability, which was the goal of the ancient methods too, but we solved it in a way that introduced a new problem. Chronic toxicity.
Right.
The ancient methods extended availability without compromising the biological integrity of the food. In fact, things like fermentation often increase the nutrient density. Modern synthetic preservation extends availability, but at the potential cost of our cellular health.
And just think about the energy our bodies have to use to deal with that. If I eat something fermented, my body welcomes those bacteria. If I eat something loaded with synthetic preservatives, my liver has to work overtime just to filter that out. It's like a tax on our system.
A tax on the system is a perfect way to describe it. Every time we consume these foreign compounds, we're diverting energy away from repair and maintenance, away from fighting off cancer cells or regulating blood sugar, and we're directing it toward detoxification. Over decades, that tax adds up, and that's where you start to see the chronic disease set in.
So what does this all mean for us, for the listener? Because this can feel a little overwhelming. You look at your pantry, you see the boxes and the cans, and you think, is everything in here a ticking time bomb?
This brings us to a really important point on critical thinking and responsibility. And it's actually grounded right in the source material's own disclaimer. It's easy to gloss over disclaimers, but in this context, the text is actually quite empowering.
Yeah, I noticed that. It doesn't just say, don't sue us. It says something about making your own decisions.
It does. The source explicitly states that the content is based on opinion. But then it adds this crucial line, encouraging you to make your own healthcare decisions based upon your research.
Based upon your research. That puts the ball back in our court. It's not saying, believe this blindly. It's saying, here is a perspective, here is a link we are seeing, now you go look.
It's a call to intellectual agency. The disclaimer also mentions working in partnership with a qualified healthcare professional. So it's not about going rogue. It's about building a team. But the central theme is empowerment. You are not a passive recipient of health. You are an active participant.
I love that. It takes the fear out of it. Instead of being afraid of the cancer and diabetes link, you can get curious. You can start reading labels. You can start researching what those preservatives actually are. And you can vote with your wallet.
And you can start looking at those ancient methods again. If the source is highlighting drying, fermenting, curing, and pickling as the wisdom of the past, maybe part of making your own health decisions is exploring how to bring those back into your life.
That's a great point.
Or at least choosing foods that use those methods over the synthetic ones.
It's not just about avoiding the bad, it's about recognizing the good. When I see a product that says naturally fermented or sun-dried, that tells me something about the process. It tells me it wasn't just extruded in a lab.
Precisely. That is applying the knowledge. The source is giving us a map. It says, here's where we came from, natural preservation. Here's where we are, synthetic preservation linked to disease. And here's your responsibility. Do your research, make informed decisions.
So let's try to synthesize this. Let's wrap our arms around this whole deep dive. We started with that scary connection. Preservatives in ultra-processed food linked to rising cancer and diabetes rates.
We established that the problem being identified is specifically the synthetic preservatives in these highly processed items, the items that rely on industrial seed oils, refined sugars, and chemical additives to stay fresh.
Then we traveled back in time. We looked at how humanity survived for thousands of years using drying, fermenting, curing, and pickling.
And we noted that these methods extended food availability, just like modern methods, but they did so without introducing synthetic chemicals into the human body. They worked with biology, not against it.
And finally, we looked at the responsibility we all have to take this information, do our own research, and make decisions that support our own cellular wisdom.
If I had to summarize the so what of all this, it would be this. The source suggests that the rise in modern chronic diseases like cancer and diabetes is not accidental. It's linked to how we treat our food. We have swapped biological preservation for chemical preservation. And the takeaway is that we need to be conscious of that swap. We need to look at our food not just as fuel, but as information.
Is the information we're giving ourselves ancient wisdom or synthetic chaos?
Synthetic chaos. That's a good phrase for it.
It is a phrase that's going to stick with me. It's funny, we often think of technology as advancement. We think the shiny package is better. But in this case, the source argues that the old technology of fermentation and curing might actually be the more advanced choice for our biology.
Sometimes progress is recognizing when a wrong turn was made, and then looking back at the map. The map here suggests that without synthetic chemicals is the path to better outcomes. It suggests that simplicity, ingredients you can pronounce, processes you can understand, is actually the sophisticated choice.
That's not about being perfect. We live in a modern world, but it's about awareness. It's about standing in that grocery aisle, holding a box of some ultra-processed something or other, and just taking a beat.
And asking yourself, how was this preserved? And does my body know what to do with it?
Exactly. This deep dive has really made me rethink my own pantry. It's not just about counting calories anymore. It's about the life or lack thereof in the food.
And that connects back to the very idea of cellular wisdom. Trusting the wisdom of the cell implies feeding it things it recognizes. The source implies our cells recognize fermentation and drying. They have thousands of years of practice handling those inputs. They might be confused and damaged by the synthetic alternatives.
Well, this has been an illuminating look at a short but really powerful piece of content. We've gone from the scary statistics of rising disease rates to the empowering techniques of our ancestors. It really does highlight that sometimes the best way to move forward is to look back.
And hopefully we've given you, the listener, a framework to think critically about what you consume. It's about taking back control of your health, one meal at a time.
Before we go, I want to leave you with a thought. The next time you pick up a food item and see an expiration date that seems impossibly far in the future, don't just celebrate the convenience. Ask yourself how that date was achieved. Was it through the wisdom of ancient methods or through synthetic means that your body might have to pay for later? Thank you for listening to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. See you in the next episode.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe now and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.